All right, Nate. I'll tell you,
What's up, YouTube?
I've been trying to get you to go live for a while now.
I know every
Our
time you try to get me to go live, I'm like, I'm at work. And today is like one of those rare days when I'm not working on a Friday.
Yeah, man. I was excited that our schedules finally synced up.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I'm getting excited for the national, and I just I wanted to talk to a hobby veteran. Uh, it's funny. I've been joking about all the videos on tips and tricks for the national. Do you have any tips or tricks?
Well, okay. So, first of all, if you haven't been to the National, probably the best advice I could give you is, and I'm sure people have talked about these tips and tricks, but one, a new pair of good shoes, because you're going to be walking around on concrete. And if you're anything like me, you're going to be walking on concrete all day. All day. You're going to be there all day. You're not going to want to leave. The second thing is have a notepad and paper, because you got to mark down what booth you're at. You will get lost. You won't be able to find the booth. If you find a card that you want and you're not at that booth, you need to know where you're at, because it is so easy to get lost. It's such a massive show. And John, I don't know if you heard, but I heard it's going to be even bigger this time. And the last time I was there was in 2019, and it was absolutely humongous. Third tip: bring Tylenol or some kind of pain reliever. I am not kidding. Bring that. Fourth tip: get in shape beforehand. It might be a little late for people, but like I've been walking 10,000 steps a day for the last 2 months, just so that my back, my legs, my posture, all that is good. Because if you don't, it's going to take a toll on your body. At least for someone my age. I'm 50 years old now, so I can't just walk around on concrete without
You're still
experiencing a
you're
lot of
still
pain.
you're still a young pup, and I have to
I
tell
know.
you, a good strategy is not being in shape because for many of us, we're better off if our legs wear out. We can't spend as much time at the national because we might save a few bucks.
Well,
Can't spend as much time on the floor.
true.
Zingy
Yeah.
No in the house. Double D in the house.
Hey, what's up, Dylan? Yep, I can't. Okay, so this
Pepino
year,
Man. He says go barefoot.
oh yeah, well, Pepino
P
Man can do
Phil.
whatever he wants, and everybody will just follow him. But
Lou
anyways,
Rock.
here, this year my agenda is completely different than any other year. So in years past, I've been super pumped about cards and meeting up with friends, of course. But this year, it's all about my friends. I mean, I just can't wait to reconnect and hang out with everybody. John, I get to meet you for the first time. I get to meet
Yes,
Dylan
sir.
for the first time. I mean, so many YouTubers are going to be there that I haven't met in person. So the community's grown quite a bit since 2019, the last time I was there. So reconnecting with people that I've met up with before, and then meeting people that I haven't had a chance to meet in person, is going to be unbelievable. So I
Yeah,
just can't wait. And
that's kind of what it's all about for me. So, is there anything in particular you're shooting to pick up there?
well, okay, so like if like as far as vintage goes, I'm still on the hunt for a Hank Aaron rookie card. So, pretty much anything like in the modern, or when I say modern, I'm talking like the golden age of inserts up through today, and I identify the golden age of inserts as like 1993 through about 2004. I have my own way of categorizing cards. So 93 to '04 is a golden age of inserts, and then '05 through like 17 is modern, and then ultra modern would be 18 to present day. So
Yeah, now
cards
that
like that. Oh, what's that, John?
I was just going to say that era that you're talking about with those inserts, they're near unlimited, aren't they? Because
Oh, I
that's a
mean,
time period that I was out of the hobby.
yeah.
In kind of like through most of the '90s, got back in the early 2000s, got out again, and then got back in 2014. But that whole '90s stretch, like if there's one era that I am not educated on, it's that era. It's your one of your specialties. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's an
there's like
amazing era.
unlimited amounts of those '90s cards, right?
And,
Like
and,
I
and you
don't
know what?
mean like I don't mean individual cards produced. I mean like all those different inserts and stuff. There's tons of limited printed inserts and so forth, right?
It's incredible how much stuff there is out there. I mean, I'm running into stuff I didn't even know existed to this day. Or like you look at a checklist and you're like, what is that? And then one surfaces and you're like, whoa, I didn't know. I mean, I can't believe I'm looking at this card. Um, I actually created a group on Facebook, probably around 2017, maybe 2016. And I've learned a lot about the hobby in that time frame. That's where I get the majority of information. And when I created that group, I thought I was going to be like the go-to guy that would know everything, and it turns out it's the complete opposite. I am shocked at how little I knew about that era when I created the group, and how much I've learned. And it seems like the more I learn about that era, the less I feel like I know about that era. So it's one of those things where if you're a novice collector of that era, you think you know everything, and really you haven't even scratched the surface. So yeah, an absolutely amazing time for cards when you have all the brands and sets. And I mean, look at the players that were playing then. So many great ball players in the 90s. So you got that. And yeah, it's just fun. And then the people that collect now, a lot of people that collect from that era are now, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and it's like a nostalgia thing. And so just a lot of stuff is starting to surface. A lot of information is still coming out about that era. So it's just a great, I love collecting. And part of the reason why I think I've jumped into that era so much is Bonds. That's my main player focus, does not have very many post-career cards. So that almost forces me to revisit that era and learn more about it, to pick up cards and to add to my collection.
Yeah. How can I wanted to post a comment on here.
Oh, you,
How can I do that? It's not even giving me the option. It's my live. I should be able to make a comment, shouldn't I?
yeah.
What am I missing?
Well, you can hit the chat and make a comment
Yeah,
if you're
that's
trying
what
to
I'm trying
make
to
a
do.
comment.
For some reason, there's no room. Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, maybe it's
What?
your computer or your phone or whatever isn't. It's hiding where you can make a comment.
Yeah, it is. Can you make a comment? I don't know. I was
Well,
just trying to share the
let me
link.
hit the chat here.
I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
I
can make a
can.
comment, but but when I do it, I can't see anything here.
I was just wondering if you could
Um,
share the link if anybody wanted to join.
oh,
So somebody was asking about the party Thursday night. I know for me, the highlight of the National is that Thursday night party. Nate, do you? I just I'm the kind of person I'm not a pre-planner, so I just kind of follow the crowd. Do you know what hotel that's at? The 7 o'clock. It's at 7, I
uh,
believe.
I know that it's being hosted by Mike Baseball Collector on Thursday.
Yeah,
So
I don't know what
when
hotel or where.
and Mike, I was just actually watching his video. He uploaded it today while I was waiting to hear back from you. And he had mentioned where it's at, but it's going to be right by the convention center. It'll be easy
Yeah.
to find. The word will get out. I mean, we're all going to run into each other throughout the day. And I mean, I could text Mike, but I can't do it while I'm live here. But he'll let
No, that's okay. That's okay. I just thought,
it'll be
for
easy
maybe
enough to
some of the
find. Yeah.
for maybe some of the people that don't maybe that they're coming, they comment a lot, they don't do content, maybe they haven't met us, or they aren't going to run into anybody. We just let them know, because I mean that's open to
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah. No, it's
and it's a wonderful
I
experience.
that's going to be absolutely well. There's one on Friday or Thursday and Friday. I'm going to go to both. and
Yeah,
that is going to be an
Filmington and
absolute blast.
yeah, Filmington and Silver Jackify do the one on Friday.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's
last
going to be
last
awesome.
year was funny because we walk up to their party, and they're like, they stop us and they give us bands, and they're like, they shoot us over to the left. So we go out on the rooftop deck to the left, and there is this spread like you can't believe, right? And it's free drinks, and I'm like, man, those guys really went all out. They must be ballers, to pay for all this for all of us. And it turns out they sent us to the wrong party.
I knew you were
Uh,
going to say that.
yeah, it was some sponsored party, and they thought we were part of that.
You're like, where's
So
all the
we had to
YouTubers?
leave right away.
Where's all the YouTubers? Why are they looking at me? I don't have a tie. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm like, man, these guys, man, they're generous buying all this. There's a full
Yeah,
layout.
yeah.
But that was
No,
that
that's
was a fun
funny.
party too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
assuming that'll be at the same location as where they always take the big picture. I remember, the big picture in 2019 that we took, and then in
I don't know.
2021.
Last year was my first national, so yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, and then another big piece of advice I could get when you're there is get enough sleep, because I mean, I don't know. I need to take my own advice, but I need to get enough sleep, because I remember meeting people and then just not even remember meeting them and them talking about it. I was just so tired I couldn't remember. I mean, I got exhausted when I went in 2019. It was like a YouTube vacation. We're all just there having a vacation with our cards and everything. But I imagine it'll be somewhat the same this time around.
Yeah,
Hey,
so
what's up, Dave?
I wasn't even gonna go originally to the national, and then I got the bug, and Rick kept bugging me to go, and he has a room, and he's like, I got a room, just get a ticket, get an airline ticket. So now I'm really excited to go. I'm really
I'm,
excited to go. I've been jumping on here and talking about it,
yeah,
and
I'm
so
really
I wanted
glad
to
you're
get you
going.
on,
I'm glad you
hobby
decided to go,
veteran.
because we haven't met in person yet. So it'll be fun hanging out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like I just, that's what the hobby's all about. And there's a lot of noise, and the past few years have been crazy, and it's all about investing and this and that. And going to a show, I don't know. It's like getting back to just the love of cards, really. You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's so exciting to see what people pick up at these YouTube meetups. I mean, people are
Yeah.
showing off their cards, sharing their cards, passing them around. We're looking at them, we're talking about cards. And I know it's so funny, because the last, I would say 3 years or whatever, the hobby really has been on quite the roller coaster. But this year, thus far, 2023 has been an absolute blast for me. I'm having the time of my life in the hobby. I had a great time last year too. As a lot of people know, a huge collection of Bonds cards is being sold, and I've been able to acquire quite a few cards I thought I would never even have a chance to own. And so that's been a lot of fun. But then just being able to get back out there and go to shows, and then going to the national this year, and all my friends, it seems like all my friends are going to be there, and then friends of mine that I haven't had a chance to meet in person, it seems like everyone's going to be there, and it's just going to be so much fun. I mean,
Yeah,
like
the
a
buzz is
summer
that this
camp,
is going to be the most attended one ever, right?
we'll
That's what the
see.
buzz is.
That's what I hear. I'm glad I went on the website and got my tickets ahead of time, because I don't want to wait in line to get my ticket and then wait in line to get in. I just want to have them scan the old QR code and walk right on in. Yeah.
Yeah, I got BD Kane on here. I got his ticket because he bought one and couldn't go.
Oh, okay.
So
There you go. Yeah.
so I'm going to be impersonating him when I enter the national. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm just, you know what? there's so many things that have changed about the hobby, and I get frustrated sometimes. And you were talking about starting a group for those cards earlier, and how much you thought you were going to know more than everybody else, but it didn't turn out that way. And it is amazing how many collectors are out there that are so knowledgeable and so passionate, and they're not all on YouTube, and they're not, walking around with a camera crew, and they have all the knowledge, and they might be collecting just in obscurity like I used to, and have these amazing collections and this amazing book of knowledge. And I feel like the hobby has moved away. Like I get frustrated like with the publications and so forth these days, and what I see like on TV, because it's, there's a lot of sports cards on the financial news networks now, and not just cards, but memorabilia. And I'm mostly a card guy. And a lot of the publications and a lot of the hype that you see and the shows is moving more towards memorabilia, and talking about like Nate, how many people can afford to buy Michael Jordan, game used shoes, for instance?
I
Like
mean,
it
that's
doesn't excite me to see an article on Michael Jordan game used shoes. I mean, he probably has 12,000 different pairs out there, but it's like I've found that for collectors, there's something lacking now, because everything has moved to the big auction sales, and the publications are just like one big advertisement for auction houses, and move more toward memorabilia, where they used to focus on card sets, players, unique players with a story, that kind of thing. And I've been kicking around the idea of publishing a digital newsletter, where I just focus on one set, show the card, show the wrapper, how they were distributed, what's the checklist, what's the short print. A lot of the old vintage cards, the manufacturers would intentionally not print a card. They would hold it back and short print it, and so that kids had to keep chasing for the set and stuff like that. And over the years, these things have been identified, and a lot of like no name players are worth a ton of money because they don't, they were short printed for that purpose or whatever on some of these old sets. And there are a lot of newer YouTubers that reach out to me that, like they're like, oh, vintage is so overwhelming, right? And I went on with 3D 80s kid, and we're going to do another one on the 1920s, but we did one on the 1930s. And he's one of those guys, and some of the folks, his friends are new to that, and that vintage is just overwhelming to them, right? There's just so much out there, they don't know where to begin. And so there was an old magazine, it was called Old Cardboard, and I think it might still exist online, I'm not sure. But I used to get this thing when I discovered it, and it was fascinating. It was awesome, and I still have every one I ever got, and I think I have every Beckett vintage I ever got, because I saved these articles and so forth. And I would go through a lot of these magazines, and if they only had like one decent article, I'd rip that out, throw the rest away. But I have a whole library that I have saved for 20 years of articles on sports cards. And so I just thought that it might be interesting to kind of share that kind of stuff with nice scans of cards and wrappers and stuff that don't show up so good on video as they would on a scan. You know what I mean? And feature different sets, and delve in more on details, and feature different unique players, and maybe have like a YouTuber spotlight where we feature some YouTuber, or they have a guest article, something brief, just like kind of a one hitter. I don't know. What do you think about that idea?
Well, I think that is a constructive way for you to deal with the things that you don't like about the hobby. Is take the bull by the horns, and make this information available. I think it's great that you saved a lot of this old information that was in that vintage publication about the cards, and that you could identify the short prints, the chase cards that would make kids continue to buy the product to look for the card. They're like, well, where is this card at? Why can't I find it? Um,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it'd be a lot of fun too. And it's a way to kind of build a community for the vintage, um, people that collect vintage. And the thing is I bet you, John, if you were to do this, you would probably learn a lot more than you
Yep.
expect. And,
Yep.
and I think that would enhance your hobby experience as well. Because anytime you're doing something to help someone else, typically the person that's doing that gets as much or more out of it than the people that they're helping. And it's not because that's not like the intended result. It's just the way things turn. Oh, it seems like that's the way things always turn out to be. And like, I mean, the only way that you're going to attract future hobbyists for these types of cards is to talk about them, to give out information about them and explain the relevance that those cards have. Getting to know the players. I mean, it sounds like if you're going to do a spotlight on a specific set, maybe someone that specializes in that set, you can learn about the players. I mean, I've watched, I don't know how many videos on like the old tobacco cards, and you hear about certain ball players and you hear the stories and you're like, whoa, that makes that card a lot more cool. Or, and so, yeah, I mean, I think that would be fantastic for you to do, John. Um, I would absolutely love to see you do that. And who knows, maybe you'd discover more sets, to add to your collection if you were to
Yeah, and
do
to
that.
touch on something that you just said, I was talking to Aaron and Snoop last night for a long time, and we're all pumped up for the national, and that's like I think that's the third time in recent days I've spoken with Snoop for hours, um, and we were what I was telling them is I think we have the hobby has gotten almost like modern versus vintage, and it really shouldn't be that way. It's like all of us that collect vintage, we started off collecting modern. I was pulling the packs as a kid or whatever, and it was I kind of compare it to a gateway drug. When I would get into the modern cards, then it was a gateway drug for me to go. I wanted the older cool cards too, the ones that predated me, the ones that weren't available to me. And I think a lot of your modern collectors, if they continue to collect, and they're collectors, right? They're doing it because they're collecting. They are going to, a lot of the new products. They include the old players, so they're learning about these old players. And I think that they have, eventually, and you've already seen it happening. There was a big push a few months back where everybody was getting into vintage. Even the Jeff Wilsons of the world started to push vintage. So I think that eventually, that'll happen because you once you start to learn more about the old players, learn more about the history, and when you collect, you're going to do that, right? Even by accident. It's like
Oh, yeah.
when I was young and I pulled the in 1979 they had the all time record holders, the twos. So I learned that George Sisler was the all time hits single season hits leader, right? From those record holder cards, you know, and you learn that. And in '76 we had the Sporting News car inserts, right, with Mickey Cochran and Pie Trainer, and those are the first time maybe you're ever seeing those players. And so when you see a vintage card, you're like, hey, that's an all-time great. That was in my, you know, I just pulled a card of them, and maybe you want that card too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, vintage is like, well, there's like, in my opinion, like vintage versus modern to me doesn't exist. I mean, I like all cards, but man, vintage is so fascinating because you have like the pre-World War I stuff, and a lot of stuff was being printed, up through pre-World War I, and then you got the post-World War I in the 1920s where it's like all food issues and all the strip cards and food issues and ice cream cards, and I mean those cards are fascinating, kind of more crude black and white cards than those real crude strip cards. And then you get into early 30s and bubblegum cards started to happen, and then the Depression, and then World War II, and then post World War II cards, and then the golden age of vintage. I mean, it's just all fascinating, and I love all of that stuff. And then
Yeah.
on through the 60s, it was most, all the food issues, and then the 70s, and then you get into the wax boom. As it will never be coined, the wax boom, but junk wax, that term's never going away. But I like the term wax boom came
Well, that doesn't
along.
mean you have to use it. There's lots of terms that will never go away totally, but you're not going to
Yeah,
say them.
yeah,
You'll get
yeah,
canceled.
yeah.
um,
Anyway, man, it's just such a great
I'm going to start
hobby. And
canceling people that use junk wax.
yeah, I mean, like it's funny, John, and you can relate to this. I've been in the. I mean, I dipped my toe in, like, in the hobby when I was a little kid, like in '78, but I didn't really collect cards. My grandma would show me my dad's vintage cards, and then I go to the corner store and I buy a pack of baseball cards with my dad, and those just sat around for a while until 1983, really, when I got started. And I've been pretty much a hobbyist almost the whole time from 83 till now. I did have one void I took a sabbatical, let's say, between 91 and 96. I didn't really collect it all. But for the most part, I've been in the hobby, and I'm telling you, it's been 40 years and I'm still learning. And I'm still learning. There's so much to learn, and um it's just I just love it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there's just stuff out there. I mean, when I watch your channel, there's always something to learn, because you want to collect one card from every set ever produced. And I'm just like, whoa, where did he find this card? And how did he find out about all this? And that's fascinating. So there's just
Well,
so much to learn.
yeah, part of the, oh, I feel a sneeze coming on.
Oh,
Part of the fun, if you see me reaching down, I have a cat here. I didn't know she was in my room. She's been sleeping all day. I thought she was outside.
nice.
So whenever I closed my door to go live, she's at my feet. And if I don't pay attention and pet her, she scratches my legs. Anyway, what was I saying? Um, I forget what I was saying.
I don't know. You were talking about, like, how much
What
there's
were you
always
just
so much
talking?
to learn.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So collecting one set, at least one card from every set, I'll discover a new set, and I learn, piggybacking off of what you're saying, I learn something new. I swear, weekly, at least weekly, I learn about something new, and it's because of YouTube, and it's because of my friends and the YouTube community, and us texting and talking. And I mean, I learned something constantly, even after all these years, and even after having all these sets. And when I discover a set I don't know about, it just blows my mind. I didn't know about it, and then I have to learn about it. And so
Yep.
those are the kinds of things that I like to jump on and share. Once I learn, I like to share it, and share that education. I was on with Lou Rock. We went live, and I was telling him how I feel like the hobby's passed me by. Maybe my time has passed, because when I started on here, there weren't all these experts, right? Like there's 1,000 experts on YouTube now, and a reason for that is that it's easier. Like we are all learning from each other, so all of our education has expanded, right? When people first came onto YouTube, this stuff's brand new to most people. Nobody's ever seen some of these sets or heard of them or knew a lot of these players. But after all these years on YouTube, and with so many knowledgeable people showing all this stuff, I know how much. I can't believe how much I learned in 3 years on here. You know,
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you're the
Yeah.
same way. So now it's almost like if I don't have something extra special, maybe I shouldn't even get on here and make a video, because there's
Well,
so much content out there now. There's so
well, let me
much
tell you
content.
something. I'm gonna talk about that.
Okay.
I'm gonna share my opinion on that. But before I share my opinion on that, for all the new collectors out there, and there's a lot of new collectors out there, um, don't feel like you got to learn everything in a month. Just take your time, and learn it as you go and ask questions, and don't worry about stuff that you don't know. And don't, and have humility, because don't ever think that you're an expert on anything. Have an open mind to learn more. That's my advice to new collectors. Now, as far as your thoughts on like being a little bit like hesitant to post a video with cards that aren't like killer cards or rare cards or something that you think would interest people. In my experience, some of my most viewed videos are videos of me showing cards that are in a binder, and me talking
Yeah.
about the cards in a binder, and me showing cards that anybody could buy anytime, that's easy to obtain, that aren't valuable, that aren't exciting as far as like, oh, I can't believe I was able to track this card down. But just looking at the cards, talking about the cards, being yourself. Because people, John, I'm telling you right now, people don't watch your videos for your cards um, necessarily. Okay, like you might have some people that are watching the videos for your cards, but I think what attracts people to a YouTube channel more than the cards is a person making the videos. So, I mean, it really is true, because I could go on. There's 1,000 channels I could go on and look at rare cards that I'll never be able to get, but a lot of those channels just don't interest me, and it's just because of who's making the video. It's just like, well, this is not interesting. But if you get someone that is like, and the audience that you and I are trying to capture are people that are hobbyists, right? So if you're posting a video with these cards that you don't think people will be interested in, but you're being a hobbyist about the way you're presenting those cards, people will want to watch those videos and they'll appreciate them. And it might even attract more people to the hobby, because they're saying, well, this guy's showing off a card that I wouldn't think I should show off, but he really likes the card. And everybody's commenting on the video with these cards. And so it's okay for me to collect these cards. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so I actually think that it will have the opposite effect that you're concerned about.
Well, I wanted to touch on Pepino's comment here, because something just happened recently, Pepino, and this just exemplifies it. Because you're right.
What's a
A
comment?
lot of
I can't read it.
his
It's too
comment is
small.
that he has organic knowledge from collecting all these years and from opening these things himself, and he's saying like newer collectors, and this is not a knock on newer collectors. It's just if you're new, you have researched knowledge, right? Like book knowledge, where guys like Pepino and I, because we're older, and we open a lot of this stuff ourselves, we have firsthand knowledge. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. One of the smartest, most educated people on cards I know, and somebody who buys and sells. And we were talking, and he sent me a picture of some 1978 uncut sheets, and said, they were promoted to him or sold to him as Topps, proofs or uncut sheets from Topps. And I said, no, those are from Dynamite magazine. I opened them myself. They came in strips inside Dynamite magazine, and I have some to this day. And so a lot of times, like, you will see hand cut from the late 70s. I think they started them in 76 and went up to 79 or 78. And sometimes you will see cards that look oversized or they look hand cut from those years, and that's what they're from. Almost always, unless somebody took an actual, Topps uncut sheet and cut them, almost always those are from Dynamite magazine, because most people cut them out. I know we did as kids, but I remember opening them, and so nobody's going to tell me those are a Topps proof, because I had that experience, and that's what Pepino's talking about. And so when it comes to vintage, I have to read about that, right? And we are now to the point where there's nobody alive that got Colgan's chips, in 1909 or 10, whatever, 12, out of the gum package, right? Nobody's alive that got Cracker Jacks out of the Cracker Jack or put them in the album from 1914 or 15. But we are alive, those of us from the 80s and 70s, and So a lot of us have that experience where we open them, and I get comments all the time where I'm not sure of a certain year, I'm not sure how they were distributed, these things, and somebody, a bit older than me will come on and tell me about them, and that's awesome, because that's where that's where a lot of this information came from. Somebody remembers opening them. For instance, I know, I won't know the specific cities or whatever, but I've read articles where there were regional test issues for tops, like the 1975 minis, for example, and they supposedly were only distributed in New York. And then you'll have some older guy that says, no, when I lived in Boston, I grew up in Boston, and I remember buying those packs at a local store. And then we have to rethink. Well, maybe these weren't just in New York. You know what I mean? Some of those memories could be off, but that's where you can get a lot of the information. Just like what Jefferson Burdick did, when he gathered his information, he was getting this stuff, a lot of these cards himself. But I
And
wanted to I wanted to touch on something else that we were talking about. What I was just saying, how I feel like the hobby has passed me by, and YouTube has changed. Me and the Misfits are talking about this today, and Dr. Beckett has 700 subs. Every kid on here that started collecting 3 months ago that rips packs or wants to tell you how to buy cards has 5,000. I mean, here's a goat of the hobby, and he's got to be a good guy because he grew up in Pittsburgh, so he's a wonderful person. But here you have a guy that changed the hobby, and his podcast has 700. But some guy that started 3 months ago might have 5,000 because he's giving advice on investing. This is where we're at in the hobby right now. And his
well,
his podcast he did on 4849 Leaf said he had an expert on there. Phenomenal information you've never heard before. And that's the kind of stuff, that gets my juices flowing. That's the kind of stuff I like to watch.
well, I mean, I don't know that the hobby has passed anybody by. And I like what you said, or what Pepino Man said about like organic knowledge. I mean, like, I agree with him. Like, a lot of the knowledge I have is secondhand. Like, I don't even realize I know these things. It just is like second nature to me, right? About the hobby. And I've talked with people, and I'm like, man, I would not want to be new in the hobby now. It would just take so much time to acquire the knowledge that I have now.
You know what? Forget about the knowledge. It's so hard to accumulate a big collection now
Oh
because of the
yeah,
prices.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, man, those of us who I always say this, when it comes to collecting, the earlier you start, the better. Right? Because every year it gets harder and harder to acquire stuff. People catch on. I was
Yeah.
buying stuff, for a steal. I always point to like this Babe Ruth, which nobody ever wanted overseas Babe Ruths. You couldn't give the Sanella margarine away for the longest time. Nobody wanted an overseas Babe Ruth, but I mean, look how beautiful this card is.
Yeah,
And
those margin cards are beautiful.
I mean, I paid a fraction of what you would have paid for another Babe Ruth. Gotta
Absolutely,
straighten that
yeah.
baby out a little bit. The
Oh,
PSA
I was gonna
holders,
say,
they're
what
not
the heck
they're
was I
not good
gonna?
for odd sized cards.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna
I
talk
need to
about
I need to
something.
get
Now I
at it
can't
in a
remember
nice
what the heck it
tuxedo
was.
so it doesn't move around.
I keep losing my train of thought, but man, yeah, that Ruth card is beautiful. I love oversized cards.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I like all
check
kinds
out
of
this
cards. I
one.
like regional issues. Here's one. Here's one that I know you will appreciate. Oh, there you go.
I'm having a hard time seeing that. Let me put you on the big screen. Can I do that?
Yeah, buddy. So this is a regional issue from Pittsburgh. There's Bonds at Wrigley Field. I love cards that have Wrigley Field in the background. But there we go.
I saw you
Nationwide.
show that, man. I need one of those.
Oh man. Yeah, they're tough to find. You don't see them too often. Here's another nationwide. But I love big regional, oversized regional cards. Anyway, what? Oh, here we go. Here's something. Here's something kind of silly. That when I got this card in the mail, I was super pumped. This is off a Wilson glove. It's a tag off a
Oh
Wilson
yeah,
glove, but it's got Bonds, Maddox, and Pudge on there. There's a back of
yeah,
it.
nice.
Oh man, I love this kind of stuff. Anyway,
All right,
we
I got to
always
show.
get our
I got to.
juices flowing when you get pumped up about the regional oddball cards, John.
I got to
So,
show off my '59 Hank Aaron bazooka
oh
again.
yeah, that's the bazooka cutout. Man, that is a beaut, absolute beaut.
Yeah, I
What
love
a
this
beautiful
card.
card.
And another one I just
Unbelievable.
showed off. This has, I don't know, like a pop in the single digits, like low single digits. Buck Weaver, Pacific Biscuit.
Whoa.
And this plank I show, this is single digits too.
Wow.
Eddie Plank. He doesn't have a whole lot of cards, and every card he has from his playing days is man, pricey.
I bet,
So
yeah.
I got a good deal from that. I bought it from a guy I bought other cards from. He always gives me a good deal.
Man, the first time I saw a Colligan chip card, it was a YouTuber. He hasn't been on YouTube. You probably aren't familiar with this channel, but you might want to go back and check out his archives. His name is Iskafan. A good his YouTube name is Iskafan, and he was showing off an Eddie Plank Colligan chip card that he had gotten. And
Oh yeah,
um,
wow.
yeah.
I didn't know
Anyway,
Eddie Plank had a Colgan's chip.
yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it was Eddie Plank. He's a big Eddie Plank collector. I have to go back and may not have been Eddie Plank, but could have been Honus Wagner. But
I don't
anyway, he had
remember
the
ever
Colligan.
seeing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had the Colligan chip card. That was the first time I had ever seen one.
Did you ever
And
see the tin they came in?
I have. Someone was showing it. Yeah, I guess they put the card in the top of the tin when you open it.
Yeah, hold on, I'll get one.
Yeah.
I happen to have it nearby.
Right on.
Here's my Honus
You got
Wagner I
everything in
got
that
years
room
ago.
nearby.
Um,
Well, while you're looking for
well,
that,
it's
I'll
not
show
all
off an
nearby,
old
but this is
CHT card.
I have it wrapped up here. But
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen
their
those
slogan
before.
was the only round gum, and they had, I believe, just two different colors of these violet chips. Um, they had the violet chips, and I forget, is the other one mint chips? I believe.
I think it's mint sounds familiar.
Yeah, so this is the violet chip one. I need to get another one, but when I got these years ago, they came as a set. Some old guy had them together,
Nice.
and I think somebody kept these from when they were a kid, obviously.
Wow.
So that makes it extra special. And I hope if that guy's looking down, that he knows that those things are in great hands. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah. I
one
mean,
of the problems I had when I say that, like, because it's in a collection and it's being appreciated, because you know a lot of the cards that happen now are just used as currency, and you know one of the problems collectors had with a lot of the flipping and some of the things that antics that were going on is that really at the end of the day, who are you flipping these to? You're flipping them to collectors, and in many cases, like we love dealers, right? We love card dealers. I don't mind flipping. I need places to get cards. So this is not a knock on anybody that sells cards, which oftentimes it's taken that way. But what I'm talking about is, I'll give you a perfect example. I was watching a card on eBay, and I wanted to pull the trigger. It was going for $2,000. It sold, and 2 weeks later was back on eBay for $8,000.
oh
Right? This
yeah.
guy's not trying to sell it for four and double his money, or sell it for five, or sell it for six. It went from two to six, two to eight. And as a collector, you just feel like somebody's trying to take advantage of you. You know what I mean? Like you're just trying to rip people off at that point.
Well, I
But
got a funny story about that.
I mean, I guess if it's a 52, and then the other thing is if you're buying like a 52 Mickey Mantle off of some old guy for 1,000 and selling it for 60,000, then you're ripping the old whoever you're selling from off. And so, it just doesn't feel good when people are just trying to gouge you, or they rip somebody off who didn't know what they had. And I know, it's up to the individual, but I'm not the kind of person that could rip off some senior citizen who could probably use that money. I mean, you can, even if you give them half the worth and you sell it for full value, I believe in win-win, right? Win-win negotiation. When I'm doing business, it's gotta work for both of us. And you leave happy, I leave happy, and you're going to do business with me again. I'm not trying to pull one over on you, because unless you're making $100 million or $10 million, whatever it is, you need to sell more than just once.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to get all your nut at once.
Yeah.
You don't want to be ripping people off and get that reputation.
Yeah. I actually ran into that. A Bonds card had sold for, I don't know, like, let's say 200, and then a guy went on eBay and put it up for $1,000, and everybody in the group was talking about it. We're like, well, we all know what that card sold for. Why would he go back and try to sell it for $1,000 a week later? I mean, what's going on? And then the guy,
Exactly.
he joined the group and he put the card on the group, and then everybody in the group blasted him. And he was wondering, well, why is everyone blasting me? Well, you joined the group. You're trying to sell a card you got for cheap to the people that were trying to buy that card. And you think that we don't know what it sold for 2 weeks ago. I mean,
Yeah.
people that are in the hobby, they know where these cards have been, what they sold for, when they sold, and what they should be sold for if it was going to be a reasonable price. And I feel like people that are doing that, what they're doing is they're preventing these cards from getting into hobbyists' hands. So they're just
Right.
sitting in somebody's inventory until they're able to get what they want for them.
Yeah,
And
and I mean, I see it all the time. Cards sit on, I've watched these cards and they're overpriced, and I'm
yeah,
waiting to see
yeah,
if they bring them down to a reasonable price, I'll pull the trigger. But they'll sit on there for 3 years.
oh
Very
yeah,
elevated pricing. That $8,000 card, I haven't looked recently, but I know as of last month it was still on there, and I know it's been on there for at least a year,
yeah,
right? Because nobody's going to
yeah,
pay that.
yeah. I
But
mean, it's
some sucker might come along and they make a killing on it,
yeah,
profit margin
and then,
wise.
well, the bad thing is, like, you have like novice collectors and new collectors, people that are new into the hobby, and if they do set that precedent on a card like that, then it just hurts all the collectors, because then
Yeah,
everyone, you know how it is. You're looking at the most recent comp, and well, this card sold for $8,000. Now it's an $8,000 card when it should be a
absolutely. And
$2,000
all the
card.
investor channels will be like, "Oh, this comp just went way up.
Yeah.
Jump on this card," and that'll just
So
drive it
so
up even more.
yeah, so like, as a specialty collector, I think it's important for, like for example, a player collector, for like Barry Bonds, me, or somebody else that's a collector of another player. I think it's important for the main players in those collecting niches to communicate with one another, so that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot and drive the price of everything up, and educate new collectors so that they don't drive the price of everything up. We want it to be collectible. We want it to be a collectible, not like a flipped asset to somebody. So
Yeah, you
there
want
are
to be
ways that,
you want to be sold to, but you don't want to be taken advantage of. And you don't want the feeling that you're being taken advantage of. And I think that's why so many collectors got so angry, because I told you I was talking with Snoop, and he was saying how he was talking to a dealer that's going to the National, and he was asking him what he thinks about all the people coming up with Pelican cases and trying to sell them cards and this and that. And he's like, I'm there to sell. I'm not there to buy. And those people were trying to get around of paying to have a booth. Like, I had to pay a lot of money to have this booth at the National to sell, and all these guys are coming in there just trying to make a quick buck, and they don't have to put up any of the fees. And
yeah.
some of the dealers don't think that's right. When you go
Well,
there to
I mean,
sell, but
yeah,
you're not participating the way, it's not costing you the same that it's costing everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that trading and swapping and buying and selling at shows is important, but I don't think that it should be to the point where that's the main focus of the show. And you got these Pelican cases covering up other cases. Like, maybe, you use it as a way to trade or get something, try to flip that card into something that you want in your collection, but not make it a business walking around with these cases. Yeah. So
that's been going on for years. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm just giving you a perspective of a dealer I heard from. But
yeah. Well, I have a hunch that there'll be, I don't know. Well, the only way we're going to know is, we're going to find out in 2 weeks. But I have a hunch that we'll see less of that this year. Less of it. I'm not saying we're not going to see any of it. I just have a hunch that the National this year is going to be more for people that are collectors than flippers. I think you're going to see a lot more collectors. And there's a lot of enthusiasm in the hobby with collectors right now.
Yeah, there is.
We are all having a blast. I think that there's a fantastic renaissance going on in the hobby for true hobbyists. And I mean, sometimes I scratch my head. I don't watch any of the videos where people are complaining about what direction the hobby is going into, but I do see the video titles, and I'm just like, man, I am glad I'm not one of these people that are worried about things. I'm
tell you,
having a good time. I'm not worried about anything. And
the YouTube sports card community, is turning into the modern day soap operas that housewives used to watch during the day. And you can get addicted to them. I know when I was young, I got addicted to General Hospital for a short stint because they draw you in. I wouldn't tell anybody I watched it, but I couldn't help.
Well, I could tell you, I've been making content now for 13 years, and I think that the time that you joined the YouTube community or discovered the YouTube community was a unique time because there was almost none of that going on. But trust me, before you hopped on, there was a ton of it, and most of that content is gone. Everybody got rid of, a lot of those people left the community, but there was, back in 2010, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. I'm not going to get into it, but it got pretty interesting. Let's just say that I stayed out of it. I was just like, I'm just here to collect cards.
Well, I'm glad that I didn't see it when I first joined, because I might have just stepped away at that point because I didn't know anybody, and that would have been my first experience with other collectors on here.
Yeah, there were a lot of toxic people on YouTube 13 years ago when I first started. And nature kind of eliminated them organically. They kind of just like left the hobby because, and then things got real good. And then you got the big influencer channels and all that. So that changed the dynamics of everything. But the true hobbyist, the true YouTuber, the true meaning or what makes this YouTube community, those people, that content is still out there, and it it's a lot of fun. So I'm still having fun. I'm just doing my own thing. I'm in my own world. I'm in my own bubble, and I guess that's why I'm still making content after all these years. As a matter of fact, New York Yankees fan 7, he'll know a lot of the people that I'm talking about that were, he'll remember a lot of those people that were somewhat toxic in the community. But yeah, it's, all that has come and gone. And I think, I don't know. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the National this year. So I'm kind of talking in circles a little bit, but
speaking of Vince, he said he's surprised you could get a word in. I'm like, Vince, since you jumped on, that was I haven't even talked yet. Nate's the one guy that can give me a run for my money.
Yeah, I probably can give you a run for your money.
All
Yeah.
right, Nate. I need to go make dinner for my family. I promised them. But is there anything you have any last thoughts or
Okay. Well, here.
anything?
Well, since you are always wondering about cards out there, I don't know if you would consider this a card set, but I'll show you something maybe that you've never seen before. And so this is a card from Courtesy Chevrolet in Northern California, San Jose to be exact. And the great Bobby Bonds signed this card from
Oh,
Courtesy
that's fantastic.
Chevrolet. So here's another card that you can look for if it is considered a card by your definition. It's a blank back card. And Courtesy Chevrolet, by the way, is still around. I hear their ads on the radio. My guess is this card is 69, 70, or 71. But a fantastic image of Bobby Bonds, the great Bobby Bonds, and an early autograph of him.
Nate,
So
that's fantastic. I would love to have that. And you bring up a good question. Is that a card or is it a photo? Because, I have a bunch of those cards from the years where, the Pittsburgh Pirates would go to the mall and they would bring photos to sign for kids, and they're kind of like card stock. So are they cards or, they're promotional photos that, I'm sure he was at he did a signing at that car dealership and they had those printed up. Are they cards or
well,
are they photos? I really don't have a problem either way, but that's a fine line. It's not like they were distributed the same way that cards are, right?
yeah, yeah,
But then neither were swell. The 48 swell were handed out when you bought a piece of bubble gum, so those weren't distributed in necessarily the same way.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
the way
I
I
don't know.
figure it is,
But
I
but
look
that was
at it as a card, but I mean,
freely handed out. It didn't come with a
yeah,
product.
yeah.
So what is the definition of a baseball card? And there are these people that say, well, if it was produced after his playing days, it's not a card, it's memorabilia. And I think that is so
I haven't
goofy.
heard that one.
Yeah, so they say like the 1933 Sport King isn't a baseball card. Well, how the hell is it not a baseball card? It wasn't produced during his playing days, but it's not memorabilia. Memorabilia is like shoes, a glove, a bat. It's or like the Addy Joss from the T205 set. How can you say that's not a baseball card? Like just because it wasn't issued during somebody's playing days doesn't mean it's not a baseball card. If it, it's if it looks like a baseball card, smells like a baseball card, was issued with other baseball cards, it's a baseball card. You know what I mean? I don't get that argument at all. That kind of blows my mind to say I lost Nate.
No, a YouTuber was calling me.
Ah,
So you're gonna meet him. It's Eric Oakland A's 915 was calling me, so
oh
that's why you
yeah,
lost
looking
me.
forward to it. Looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
we're actually going to be rooming together the whole time and traveling together the whole time, and we are pumped.
Now listen, does he let me ask you something. Does he skateboard around the National or does he walk?
You know what? If anybody were to skateboard and get away with it, it would be Eric, because he's one heck of a skateboarder. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a man of three hobbies, and skateboarding is one of his other three hobbies. He's only actively in two hobbies, but yeah, another great hobby.
All right, man. Well,
John, we
thank
got
you.
it. Well, man, again, John, I can't wait to meet up with you at the
I
National.
can't wait to meet you, Nate. And there's so many more people going this year that didn't go last year. Like Aaron didn't go, Snoop didn't go, you didn't go, Double D Vintage didn't go. There's many other ones, but I hear so
Oh
many
yeah.
people who I didn't get to meet last year. So I'm really pumped for that. I'm starting to really get excited. I mean, the National is right around the corner. I'm
Oh
just
man.
so excited to go and hang out with fellow collectors and delve into the National. I don't know if I'll buy much, but it's always exciting to not know what you're going to come home with too. Not For me, it's like discovering that gem you know, at the right price that I've been either searching for years, or something new I discover that's so exciting to get. So, yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm pumped.
Yeah, you know, I have a hunch I'm going to go away with something that is going to blow my mind. I have no idea what it is. Maybe it'll be the Hank Aaron rookie. Maybe this might be the year I get the Hank Aaron rookie. I don't know, but I'm going to have a blast. But my main focus is reconnecting with all my friends and meeting a lot of the tubers I've never met before. And man, it seems like everybody's going. And Chicago really is a great venue. It's just a fantastic venue. Everything is close by. It's easy to do the meetups, and yeah, it's just going to be a blast.
JP Wisco. Oh, you're not coming over from Japan? JP, Tony's one of my favorite people. Love me some Tony. And Decon, why aren't you coming? Dougie Fresh. Oh, man, I can't believe Decon's not coming. I mean, I don't know what excuse he could have. He I don't think he has far to travel. I don't know. These people that they have like they have like jobs, and they want to hang out with their family. Like, they need to get their priorities straight, man. We have some baseball cards to look at.
Exactly.
All right, Nate. Well, thanks for finally joining me. And
thanks for being so damn persistent, asking me almost every day. And I'm always at work, but today I'm not, so it worked out perfect.
Well, that used to work for me when I was dating. You know, you know, people would be like, "How do you get those hot chicks?" Well, they don't know. I might have asked 100 times, or I might have asked 100 different women until one said yes. It's a numbers game.
You got to keep asking.
All right, Nate. Thanks for watching.
All right.
Or thanks for joining.
Thanks for
and everybody, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.